Hello and welcome to my video. Today I'm going to show you how to make this lovely Tunisian two-tone cowl. I used one skein each of this beautiful red cranberry color and this gray heather color. Both of these are Lion Brand's Wool Ease worsted weight. So this is a great quick project if you need to make a gift or just make something for yourself. Today I'm going to show you all the steps you need to make to your very own Tunisian two-tone cowl.
Hello and welcome. Today I'm going to be showing you how to make the Tunisian two-tone cowl. For this cowl, I've got two colors of Wool Ease from Lion Brand. One is this really pretty red color. It's Cranberry is the name of the color. It's a worsted weight yarn, and this particular yarn is an 80-20 blend, 80% acrylic, 20% wool, which is nice because it feels good on the fingers, it's affordable, and it's easy to take care of. The other color that I have is Grey Heather, and I think these are going to look really cute together. So I'm going to start with the red. I actually have two skeins of this because one we're going to use for the main part of the cowl and the other skein we're going to use for the border. So I'm going to start with a slip knot. I always put a little knot, which I've already done, right here so that my slip knot doesn't go crazy. I'm going to be using a straight Tunisian hook today. This particular hook is a size J, which is a 6.0 millimeter hook, which is perfect for worsted weight yarn. It's a little bit longer than I will probably need for this project, but it'll be easier to use than one with a cable that'll just be flying around everywhere. So I'm going to start by chaining 30. I'm going to do these chains a little bit loosely because we're going to be pulling up our loops in the back bump of these chains. It's a little bit easier to do if the chains are a little bit loose. So let's see, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. So 30 is just a number that would be easy to follow and still gives us a nice wide cowl. If you wanted to make your cowl a little bit shallower or a little bit taller, you could add stitches here. This pattern does not require a multiple of any stitches, so your stitches could be 17, they could be 47. It's still going to work up the same way. So we're going to be pulling up our loops in the back bump. So if I take my chain, usually I would just chain right, or I would do my first stitch right here. I'm actually going to turn the chain toward me, find this little back bump, easier said than done, and then pull up a loop from there. We're going to do that all the way down our chain. The first loop that we started on our hook with counts as our first stitch. So by the end of this, when we get all the way to the end chain, we should have 30 loops on our hook if we did it right, or however many you started with. I like this hook a lot because it is an aluminum hook, which means that it's not getting caught on anything. I do have some wooden hooks that I like as well that have some cables on the end that I've used for bigger projects, but this one will be just right for this particular project. Tunisian hooks have come in all sorts of sizes and varieties. I remember the first time I saw one that was shaped like this, I had no idea what it was used for. I don't think I'd even heard of Tunisian crochet until like maybe 2 years ago. And I've recently been on a Tunisian crochet vibe where I've just wanted to make everything in Tunisian. I will tell you that the first row that we're doing right now is always the trickiest. So if it's taking you a little while to do it, just like it's taking me a little while to do it, especially to find those back bumps, do not stress. And I'll show you once we get to the end of the row why we did our setup row this way. I've also done this setup on traditional crochet as well, where I crocheted into the back bump instead of just going in the normal way, and it gives it a really nice clean edge. So I should have one more loop. So let's count and make sure that I have 30. I've got 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. I've got 30. So if you look at the bottom of where we just did all of our back bumps, it gives it a nice clean edge. Part of what happens with Tunisian is that because it's similar to knitting, it does curl a decent amount, and this helps keep it from curling a whole lot. So we just did our setup row where we did our chains and we did our forward pass. So that means that we went from the right side of our work to the left side of our work, picking up loops along the way. Now this is the fun part, because this is when we're going to add our second color. So I'm going to go ahead and grab the Gray Heather. I've also pulled out some yarn barf from that one. And I'm going to leave a little tail in the end. I'm going to knot it so it doesn't get frayed. And then as I do the return pass, as I move from left to right, finishing off my stitches, I'm going to be using the new color. So I yarned over here on the end. I'm going to pull it through that first loop, and then with a part that isn't the tail, so not the part that we're leaving off to weave in, but our working yarn, I'm going to yarn over, pull through 2 loops. By doing that, yarning over and pulling through 2 loops, I am finishing the first row of our work. This is the Tunisian simple stitch with the added fun of making it two-tone. Because we are doing the forward pass and the return pass in 2 different colors, that's going to give us almost a houndstooth look to the front of our work. If we had done the forward pass and the return pass in the same color and then had switched to a new color, that would have given us stripes. So I'm slowly finishing off all of my stitches, finishing that return pass. I can already tell that these colors are going to be so pretty together. All right, I'll pull through my last 2. So I've now done my first row. It's going to be so cute. So the cool thing about the Tunisian two-tone technique is that you don't have to worry about weaving in ends along the way, because now we're going to go for our forward pass in the same color that we ended on. So I'm just going to go through, I'm going to go into that front bar right here, yarn over, pull up that loop, go into the next front bar, yarn over, pull up a loop, and continue that down our second row. I'm going to go a little bit quicker as we keep doing this. It's also really nice if you are new to Tunisian crochet. Just realized I messed up a stitch. Let me go back. If you're new to Tunisian crochet, I like this project a lot because you're able to see clearly the front bars and the return pass, because everything is in different colors on this project, and because it's in a worsted weight yarn, it's easy to see where your yarn is going, rather than if you were starting a project that was with a fingering weight or a really skinny yarn. It might be hard to see what in the world is going on. Slip that down a little bit. Pick up the rest of these. There's also something a little bit special we're going to do with our last stitch, so I'll make sure that I slow it down when we do that last stitch. All right. So I've got 1, 2, and now I'm ready to do my last stitch. So for your last stitch, it's going to be a little tricky on this first one, but you're going to turn it to face you, and instead of just going in the front of the bar, you're going to go in and kind of grab the back of the chain underneath. So you've got 2 loops that you've gone into, yarn over to pull up that loop. That just helps give the end, and we're going to see that as we keep going, a little bit cleaner of a finish. So now that we've done our forward pass in the gray, I'm going to pull it down so you can kind of see. Oh, the colors are going to be so pretty. We're going to do the return pass in the red. So we already have a working red over here. So we're just going to pull up the working red yarn right here, yarn over, pull through that first loop, yarn over, pull through 2 loops, all the way down. And these do get a little bit easier as you've done more rows because you're not fighting against the curl so bad at the beginning of your work, trying to curl up against what you're currently working on. Oh, can we just take a minute and look at that? That is so pretty. So we're going to finish this row all the way down. Making sure that we do still have 30 stitches on our work. Sometimes it can be easy to accidentally pull through 3 loops like that instead of just pulling through 2. So if the edges of your work start to look a little wonky, just check for that. We have now done 2 full rows of the Tunisian two-tone. We're going to continue this pattern by going forward in one color and returning in the other color. And I will meet you back here after I've done, I don't know, maybe 15 inches of that. Okay, well, I did a lot more than 15 inches. I actually just kept crocheting. You can see all of this beautiful texture until I had 34 inches from the beginning of my work right here to where I am currently. So I wanted to stop here so that I can do another forward and return pass with you and give you another view of how to make these edges look as pretty as they do. I really like this texture that this creates. So for all of these, I ended with a red return pass, that cranberry color. So I'm going to be pulling up a loop in each of the gray bars right here, going forward into each of my stitches. This actually worked up pretty quickly. I was able to do most of this watching TV last night, and it's also pretty mindless. You don't really have to keep up with like stitch counts necessarily, or like pattern repeats or anything like that. But it does give you this really pretty pattern that looks a lot more complicated than it is. And I stopped at 34 inches because that's what felt comfortable for a circumference of a cowl for me. If you wanted to make it a little bit wider or a little bit narrower, a little closer to your neck, you could, change that. I do want to end with a return pass in a different color than the color that I started with. So I want to end with a gray return pass. So now I've gotten to the end, you can see all of these pretty stitches right there. I'm going to, instead of just going into that front bar right there, I'm going to go into both of those loops to pull up a loop, and that just gives us a nice cleaner edge. It's a little hard to see at the beginning of the video what I was doing there. So I'm going to switch to gray. I'm going to yarn over, pull through 1, yarn over, pull through 2 as I make my way back. Then we're going to be ending with a slip stitch bind off here in a second to get all the way to the end. Yarn over, pull through 2, pull through 2 as we make our way back to where we started. All right. Now, we have ended with a gray return pass. We started with the cranberry color, so now I'm going to do my slip stitch bind off. This is another thing that's a little bit easier if you do your bind off in a loose way. And since this bind off will not require you to have a lot of hook or a lot of loops on your hook, I'm actually going to take this hook off I'm gonna switch to my just normal crochet hook. This is a furls. I love furls. So I'm going to put it in there. That way I just don't have that end kind of wiggling about everywhere. So I'm going to go into the front bar the same way that I did when I was doing my Tunisian simple stitch. I'm going to yarn over. I'm going to pull it through both loops. I'm going to keep doing that. Yarn over, go into the front bar, yarn over, pull through both loops. I'm going to do that all the way down my work. After we do our slip stitch bind off, we are going to be doing the mattress seam to bring our two ends together. And this is a seaming technique that I did not even attempt, even though I heard about how beautiful it was, how simple it made everything look, how clean it made everything look. I thought it was too complicated and for me to try. And so I didn't even attempt it until this past winter break, which is kind of ridiculous because it is not nearly as tricky as I thought it was. I've also made a few straight scarves in this Tunisian two-tone, and if you wanted to make a straight scarf instead of seaming it together and kind of doing a border like we're going to do on the cowl, you could get it to the desired length that you wanted and then just end it like this. Then you'd be done. Or you could add some cute fringe to the bottom. You could add a double crochet border to the bottom or anything like that. This is where you would end. So we're almost at the end. I've got this one. And then the same way that we did our, when we were doing our Tunisian crochet, I'm going to go through both of these loops and pull it up there. And then I'm going to pull the rest of my yarn through that. This is way more yarn than we're going to use for seaming, so I'm going to clip that in a minute. I'm also going to clip some of this red. We don't need all of this. We're going to leave a little bit of a tail for seaming. That'll be it. So I'm going to, it's still probably more yarn than I'll need, but leaving myself a decent tail to seam through this. And I have a metal needle, which I did not even know existed until relatively recently, sometime last year. And I really like using these a lot better than the plastic. Just feel like it feels more precise, whether or not it is. And I like that it's easier for me to find them than just a lightweight plastic hook if I lose them, which I am notorious for doing. One of the other things I wanted to show you is that this is the right side of our work that gives us that really cool texture. This is the wrong side of our work with really neat stripes. So if we had done a Tunisian stripe on the front where we did our forward pass and our return pass in the same colors, then the back would look like our front does here, which is kind of cool. We're going to take our two front sides, pull them together like this. And again, because it's Tunisian, it's going to curl some, but because we're making a cowl, that's really not going to be an issue for us since as we seam it, that curl will go away. So with the mattress stitch, we are going to take our two ends that kind of look like they have a chain edge, and we're going to be working kind of in the middle of those. So I'm going to come up from underneath to the other side from where I'm starting and pull it up there. And then this is the cool part. For the mattress stitch, you go into the middle of the chain stitches right here. You go into one and out of the other one. And then once you are on the other side, you start from where you were. So we ended on this one, and we're going to go into that one and out of the next one. What's cool about this is that even though it does take a little bit more time, this is the one we left off on, we're going to go into that one, out of the other one. It can take a little bit more time to do this. It gives you a really clean finish. And if you are using a seaming color that is different than your work, you really don't even see it, which is nice. If we had ended on a red return pass, this seam would be a little bit more noticeable because it'd be a lot of red altogether, which is why we're ending on what we ended and did our slip stitch in the contrasting color of the gray. So you can see I've got a couple of stitches there. I'm going to pull it closed, And just like that, that's how neat our seam is, which to me just feels like magic. I'm going to keep going all the way up, and then I'll meet you back here for our border edging. Okay, we have now seamed up the cowl with a mattress stitch. That's our seam right there. The top and the bottom look the same. They're even because everything has just been straight so far. The only difference is that this side has some tails that we're going to crochet right over. So in order to make this cowl lay a little bit nicer when we're wearing it, we're going to do something a little bit different at the top and the bottom. Right now, it does not matter which one you designate as the top or the bottom. I'm just going to designate this side as my top. So I'm going to take more of that cranberry color, more of that wool ease, and I'm going to be using a regular crochet hook. This is a size J, the same size that we used for our Tunisian crochet hook. A lot of times with Tunisian hooks, you're going to want to go up a size depending on the yarn. You could definitely go up to like a 6.5 or even a 7mm Tunisian hook if you felt like your fabric, what you were crocheting, was a little bit too dense. For me, I'm happy with the way this looks, but I'm going to use the same size for my regular hook as well as my Tunisian hook. So I'm going to turn my work towards me so I can see the edge of this side of the cowl, and this is where I'm going to be crocheting into. Doesn't really matter where you start because we're gonna be working in the round. I usually start, if I'm doing something where I have a seam, I usually just start a couple of stitches over. No real rhyme or reason to it. I'm gonna pull up a loop there, and we're gonna be single crocheting our way around the border. So I'm gonna chain one to start, and kind of like solidify that stitch. And then I'm just gonna go into both of the loops here on each of the edges around, and I'm actually crocheting right over the tail that I used to secure it in place. And for each of these, I'm going to be crocheting all the way around my cowl. This is where the seam is, so that's going to be the hardest one to crochet into. And once I crochet my way around the cowl with a single crochet stitch, I will meet you right back here. All right, I'm almost at the end of my round. So I've got this one last stitch to come into here, and then I'm gonna slip stitch to close this round. So what that means is that I'm gonna go into the top two loops here. I'm gonna yarn over, pull it closed, and that finishes off my round. So all the way around, I have just a single crochet border on so far. We're going to do a round of double crochet, another round of single crochet, and then we're going to do the reverse single crochet to finish it. It's kind of my favorite way to do a simple border. It just looks very clean, but like you put some effort into it. So I'm going to chain two to start my double crochet round. I'm going to yarn over, go into that same stitch, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through two, yarn over, pull through those next two. I have used this particular border. I use it on a lot of the cowls that I make when I'm just playing around with a new stitch, but I've also used this border on baby blankets, pillows, things like that. It's just a simple, clean way to finish off a project. Once we go all the way around with our double crochet, I will meet you right back here when we start our single crochet round. We are now at the end of our double crochet round. Look how lovely that is. It really brings out all of that wonderful red in here. Oh, I love the way that's coming together. So I've got one more double crochet, which I'm going to do right there. And then I'm going to do the same thing I did last time, where I'm going to come through these top two loops of the first stitch that I did, the first double crochet, yarn over, slip stitch to close. We're now going to do another single crochet round. So I'm going to chain one, and then I'm going to do my single crochet right there on that first stitch. And I'm going to single crochet my way all the way around again. And then I will meet you right back here for the last stitch that we're going to do, look how lovely that looks. The last stitch we're going to do, which is our reverse single crochet after we finish our regular single crochet round. We've made our way back here. Got one more single crochet to do right there in that stitch. We're going to come through those top 2 loops, slip stitch it to close. Looks like I missed a little part of that. Slip stitch it to close. Now we're going to start the reverse single crochet. I love reverse single crochet for borders. And so far we've got a pretty thick border. This will add just a little bit of something extra that's pretty shallow along the edge. So the weird thing about reverse single crochet is that it does not move from right to left, it moves from left to right. So we're going to chain 1, and then we're going to be moving this way across our work. So I'm going to go into this stitch right here. I'm going to go in from the front, pull up this loop around here in the back. So now I have 2 loops on my hook, yarn over and pull through both. Just like the name suggests, it's kind of an inside out single crochet. And for this border, instead of doing a reverse single crochet in every stitch across, we're only going to do it in every other stitch. If you do it in every stitch across, it'll just look a little frillier. So if that's something that you want to do for the edge of your cowl, you totally could. For me, I'm going to do it in every other stitch. So instead of coming in here, I'm going to come into this stitch. I'm going to go in, grab that yarn, pull it up, yarn over, pull through 2. I'll show you a couple more because this one is a little tricky. So again, I'm not going to go into this stitch. I'm going to come over right here, go in, grab the yarn right here, pull it up, yarn over, go through 2. I'm going to skip that stitch. I'm going to come right here, go in, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, go through 2. And you can see that it kind of gives you this scalloped, almost a twisted edge to the end of the work, and it goes quickly. So I will meet you right back here as soon as I've gone over the whole cowl. Told you that would be fast. So I've now done this really pretty reverse single crochet across the top, and I've got one more stitch that I'm going to be going into right there. So I'm going to go in through the front, pull up that loop, yarn over, pull through both. Now I'm going to cut my work, giving myself a little bit of a tail. And the way that I have found works best for the for tying off a reverse single crochet edge is to pull the yarn through here so your stuff doesn't go everywhere, and then pull it from the back. Grab your tail, pull it from the back to the front so that it kind of mimics the rest of the border, and then I'll be pulling it through back here and then tying it off on the inside. That way nobody can see it. So for the top, we're now done. As soon as we tie that off, we've got a lovely border right here across the top, and then we'll be working along the bottom to do the bottom part of our cowl. And it will use the same stitches that we did here at the top. We're just going to be doing some increases at the bottom, so we're kind of bending our cowl out a little bit so that it lays a little nicer along our neck. So I'm going to take my yarn right here. And again, just this is a personal Nicole preference, is that I usually start a couple of stitches over from where my seam is. For this, because I have kind of a long tail that I want to cover up, I'm going to start right here. I'm going to go into this yarn, whoop, if I can grab it, pull that yarn through, and then do a single or a chain right here so I know where I'm starting. And then I'm going to be crocheting over this tail as well as the tail that I just created by adding in that yarn. I'm going to be single crocheting the same way that we did last time. So right into those top 2 edge loops, if of course I can grab the yarn. There we go. It's kind of hard to see with what I'm covering up, but we'll be crocheting into 2 of these at a time. Now for the bottom, for every 5 stitches of single crochet, so that's 1, go ahead and do the next 4, 2, 3, 4, 5. For every 5 stitches of single crochet, we're going to be doing a single crochet increase. For this, it just means that we're going to do 2 single crochets in the same stitch. So I'm going to come into this one that's gray, I'm going to single crochet, and then I'm going to single crochet into that same stitch. And then I will do 5 more, just normal single crochets. That's 1. We can tuck that guy behind us now. That's 2. Right into the seam is 3. And this time we're going to be crocheting right on top of these 2 tails. This is, if I can grab the other part of it, 4, 5. Can you see why I started at the top where we don't have all these tails to go over? And then now that I've done 5, I'm going to single crochet twice into this one. 1, 2. And I'm going to do that all the way across the round. Now, if you get to the end of your round and you don't have 5 between your last increase and where you ended, that's okay. This is mainly just to get us kind of an even increase around, but because we're not having to meet a specific stitch count for our pattern. If it's off a little bit of the edge, it's fine because we're going to be doing increases on the other rounds as well. So we're going to do our single crochet first, where we're increasing every 5 stitches, and I'll meet you right back here when we start our double crochet. All right, we are right back at the beginning of our round. So I actually had an increase in my second to last one around. So I've got 1 more stitch right here. It's my last single crochet. Then I'm going to come through the top. I can find the other half of that stitch. There it is. Yarn over, slip stitch right here. So you can maybe see a little bit how our increases here have kept the border from coming in a little bit, like we had here where it did come in a little bit on our first round. And that's because of the increases that we've done around. So this time we're going to chain 2 to start our double crochet round. Yarn over, come through into that first stitch. And this time, instead of increasing every 5 stitches, we're actually going to increase every 10. So that was my first one. I'm going to come into my second stitch right there. That's 2. This one is 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 didn't want to work with me. And 10. So now I've done 10 double crochets from the first one to here. And so now I'm going to increase in this next stitch. So I'm going to yarn over, double crochet once into that stitch, and I'm going to yarn over and double crochet twice into that stitch. So we're going to repeat that pattern around again the same way that we did with a single crochet. If you have increases on that last set that are a little closer or a little farther away than you thought they would be, that's okay. This is just to give us an even increase around. This does not have to match a particular count for our stitches as we go around. But I'll meet you right back here before we start our last round of single crochet. Okay, and now we're back here. So I'm going to do my last double crochet, yarn over, go in, pull up a loop, yarn over, go through 2, yarn over, go through the last 2, and then I'm going to slip stitch to close. Now hopefully what you've seen by doing that round is that it's flaring out a little bit on your edges. That edge, and then on that edge. Whereas at the top, it kind of came in a little bit, just a little bit. At the bottom, we want it to flare out a smidge. So we've done 1 row of single crochet where we increased every 5 stitches. We've done 1 row of double crochet where we've increased every 10 stitches. And then this last single crochet row that we're going to do, we're going to increase every 20 stitches. So I'm going to do my chain 1, and then I'm going to single crochet the next 20 stitches. So that's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, ooh, if I can find it,
11, 12, 13, 14, 15, almost there, 16, 17, pull where you can see it, 18, 19, and 20. So now that I've done 20 single crochets right there, I'm going to do my increase where I'm going to do 2 single crochets into the same stitch, and then I'm going to repeat that around. And we're back. So we've got one more stitch to do right here for our last single crochet. Then we're going to slip stitch to close. You can see that little flare that's happening here on the ends. Hopefully you can see it on your work as well. I can get everything to lie flat and nicely. So now we are going to do our reverse single crochet, and we're going to do it exactly the same that we did last time. So no increases or anything like that for our last row. So we're going to yarn over, pull through a loop. We're going to chain 1 right there, and then we're going to reverse single crochet into this stitch. So we're going to go through the front, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2. We're going to do that in every other stitch along the round. Once we get to the beginning once more, we are going to finish it the same way that we did the top, where we're going to cut and tie off, kind of pulling it from back to front. The way I was showing you that works best for me as I'm doing that. And then we'll be ready to tie off everything, weave in any ends that we might still have, and then wear our work. So I'll meet you right back here when we are all completely done. And there it is, all finished. And guys, I was able to finish all of it with just 2 skeins. So this is how much I had left over of the cranberry color of the first skein that I used. I used 2 skeins of woolies from Lion Brand and their worst weight, and I was able to do the whole thing with just 2 skeins of yarn. So that's awesome. You can tell that the bottom is a little bit wider than the top. The bottom measured right at 17 inches, the top measured at 16, and then it was 11 inches from the top to the bottom. So that is the Tunisian two-tone cowl. I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, like and subscribe and comment in the bottom with what colors you would use to make your own. Thank you so much.